Imagine waking up on Thanksgiving night to the perfect family photo on Facebook. Everyone laughing, toasting, hugging, except you. Your only child, your miracle baby, posted the holiday of her dreams. Her husband, her kids, her father, who left us years ago, my sister, old neighbors, even my college roommate. The caption? Grateful for family time. Who's ready for Christmas? No tag, no text, no invitation. What followed was weeks of silent tears, secret group chat leaks, hidden letters, anonymous warnings, and one heartbreaking porch confrontation that changed everything. This is the raw, real story of a mother's love turned into a burden, a daughter's quiet rebellion, and the painful truth that finally surfaced after 30 years of unspoken secrets. One holiday, one photo, one devastating question. When did I gave you everything become the reason she shut me out forever? Watch if you've ever loved someone so much it hurt them.
I still remember the exact moment the world tilted. It was Thanksgiving night, just after 9 o'clock. The wind off Lake Michigan was rattling my condo windows in Naperville, the kind of sharp, lonely November gust that makes you pull your cardigan tighter, even when you're inside with the heat on. I was curled on the couch under the same fleece blanket Emily used to steal from me when she was in high school, gray with little white stars, now faded from too many washes. My laptop balanced on my knees, the blue light painting my face. I'd already FaceTimed my sister Karen earlier. She'd been at her in-laws in Schaumburg, everyone laughing over pumpkin pie and football. I smiled through the screen, told her my turkey breast turned out perfect, even though I'd eaten half a lean cuisine instead. She didn't push. Sisters know when to leave space. After we hung up, I did what millions of us do on holidays when the house feels too quiet. I scrolled. Facebook first, because that's where the older crowd still posts the full albums. Instagram next for the filtered version of life. Then back to Facebook because sometimes the unfiltered truth slips through. That's when I saw it. Emily's post popped up at the top of my feed like it had been waiting for me. A carousel of photos. The first one was her whole family gathered around a long farmhouse table in their new colonial in Hinsdale. Golden turkey, cranberry sauce in a cut glass bowl, candles flickering. Emily wore the red cashmere sweater I'd bought her 2 Christmases ago, the one she'd said was too fancy, but was wearing anyway. Her dark hair was swept into a loose bun, the same way I used to do it for her when she was little and hated having it brushed. Kyle stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder, smiling that easy, confident smile he always has. Their kids, Lila, 6, gap-toothed and giggling, Mason, 3, reaching for a roll, were tucked between them. Then the wider shots. My ex-husband Richard laughing with his new wife Vanessa, her blonde highlights catching the light just right. My sister Karen and her husband Tom, arms around each other. Even the old neighbors from our block in Elmhurst, the Millers, were there, raising wine glasses. The caption read, "Grateful for family time this holiday season. Heart. Who's ready for Christmas?" My thumb froze mid-scroll. No tag for me. No mom's famous stuffing joke. No little heart emoji next to my name like she used to do. Nothing. I sat there staring at the screen until the photos blurred. My tea had gone cold on the side table, the steam long gone. I tapped through every picture again, slower this time, searching for a corner of a shoulder, a glimpse of my green cardigan, anything that said I'd been invited and just hadn't made the frame. Nothing. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped a belt around my ribs and pulled. I told myself it was a glitch. Maybe she'd tagged me and Facebook ate it. Maybe the post was only visible to certain people. Maybe she'd posted a separate one just for me later. I opened messages. Our thread was right there, the last text from me 3 days earlier. Made your favorite pecan pie recipe today. Thinking of you. Love you, baby girl. She reacted with a heart. No reply. I typed fast, before I could overthink it. "Looks beautiful, honey. What time should I arrive Christmas Eve? Should I bring the glazed ham again or the cookies the kids like?" I hit send. The little blue bubble appeared, then sat there, delivered. No dots, no read receipt. I waited. 10 minutes, 20, an hour. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Outside, a car went by, tires hissing on wet pavement. I kept refreshing the post, stupidly hoping a new photo would appear with me cropped in somehow. Nothing changed. By midnight, I'd moved to the kitchen table, laptop open, Facebook still glaring at me. I clicked on Emily's profile, public posts only, no new stories, no private messages forwarded to me like she sometimes did when the kids said something cute. I scrolled back through her feed, month by month, like an archaeologist looking for clues. There I was in July, her birthday barbecue. I'd driven 2 hours with a cooler full of deviled eggs and watermelon. She'd hugged me tight, whispered, "Thanks for coming, Mom," against my shoulder. In the photos she'd posted, I was there, cutting cake, holding Mason on my hip, laughing at something Kyle said, tagged, hearted, commented on by half her friends, best grandma ever. September, back to school pictures. I'd taken Lila shopping for new sneakers. Emily posted one of me kneeling to tie the laces. Caption, "Couldn't do this without Mom's help. Heart." October, Halloween. I'd sewn Mason's dinosaur costume by hand because Emily was swamped with work. She'd posted the whole family in costume, me included, wearing the silly inflatable T-Rex head she'd forced on me. "Grandma's the real MVP," she wrote. So what had changed between Halloween and Thanksgiving? I closed the laptop too hard. The snap echoed in the empty living room. I stood up, paced to the window, stared at the dark street. Christmas lights were already up on the houses across the way, red and white, blinking in rhythm. Mine were still in the garage. I hadn't bothered yet. I'd been waiting to see what Emily wanted to do this year. She always liked to coordinate. Same theme, same colors, same stupid matching pajamas for the grandkids and me. Now I wondered if there would be pajamas at all. I tried calling her, straight to voicemail. Her voice, so familiar, so much like mine when I was younger, said, "Hey, it's Emily. Leave a message and I'll get back to you when I can." Beep. "Hi, sweetheart. Just saw your post. Looks like a wonderful Thanksgiving. I texted about Christmas. Let me know what you need me to bring, okay? Love you. Call when you can." I hung up and immediately regretted how cheerful I tried to sound. Too bright, too desperate. I sat back down, pulled the blanket around my shoulders again. The clock on the microwave blinked 1:47 a.m. Somewhere in Hinsdale, Emily was probably asleep beside Kyle, the kids tucked in upstairs, the house smelling of cinnamon and pine. Everyone who mattered was under one roof. Except me. I didn't cry then. Not yet. I just sat in the dark, phone in my lap, staring at the unanswered text bubble, willing those 3 typing dots to appear. They never did. That night, the silence wasn't just quiet. It was a message, and for the first time in 34 years of being her mother, I heard it clearly. "You're not invited."
The days after Thanksgiving blurred into a gray haze. I went through the motions. Work at the community college library, shelving returns, smiling at students who barely looked up from their phones. At home, I kept the TV on low, some cooking show I wasn't really watching, just so the silence wouldn't swallow me whole. My phone became an obsession. I checked it every few minutes, waiting for those 3 little dots that never came. Emily's text thread stayed frozen on my unanswered message. Read at 9:47 p.m. on Thanksgiving. Nothing since. By the following Saturday, the knot in my stomach had hardened into something sharper. I needed answers, even if they were crumbs. So I did what any desperate mother might do in the middle of the night when sleep won't come. I opened WhatsApp. Years ago, when Emily first got married and moved to the suburbs, we'd created a family group chat, the Core Four, we called it back then. Me, Emily, Kyle, once he was officially family, and sometimes Richard when he bothered to respond. Over time, it grew. Karen joined. Then the kids' baby photos started flooding in. Eventually, Emily added her in-laws, a few close friends, even the Millers from the old neighborhood. I'd stayed in it, mostly lurking, liking the occasional cute kid video. I figured she'd forgotten I was still there, or maybe she hadn't cared enough to remove me. I hadn't looked at the chat in months. When I tapped it open that night, the screen filled with unread messages, blue bubbles stretching back 2 weeks. My thumb hovered, heart hammering so loud I could feel it in my throat. I scrolled up slowly, like I was defusing a bomb. Most of it was normal holiday chatter at first. Karen posting a photo of her gingerbread house, Kyle sending a meme about Black Friday crowds. Then, buried in the middle of a long thread titled Christmas Plans, I saw it. Emily, December 2nd, 8:14 p.m. Okay, everyone, quick update on Christmas. We're keeping it small and low-key this year. Immediate family only. Kids are excited for Santa, but I need things calm. No big production. Kyle replied almost immediately. Sounds good, babe. What about your mom? A long pause, 5 minutes according to the timestamps, before Emily typed. Mom's not coming. I need space right now. Please don't invite her or mention it to her. I'll handle it when I'm ready. My breath caught. I read it again. Then again. The words didn't change. Karen. You sure? She's going to be devastated. She was already asking me about plans. Emily. I know. But this is what I need. She'll be fine. She's always fine. This year is for healing. For us. Healing. The words sat there like a slap. Kyle. Babe, maybe talk to her first. She deserves to hear it from you. Emily. I tried. She doesn't listen. She just cries and makes it about how much she sacrificed. I can't do that again. Not this Christmas. Another pause. Richard, my ex, who rarely typed more than lol or thumbs up emojis, chimed in. I talked to her last week. She seemed okay. But if you need boundaries, I support you 100%. Vanessa and I will bring the wine and keep it light. Vanessa. Of course he'd drag his new wife into it. Karen again. I hate this. She's my sister. But I get it. I won't say anything. Then a string of heart emojis from various people. Agreement. Solidarity. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone shaking in my hands. The room felt colder. The radiator clicked on, but it didn't help. I scrolled further back, searching for context, for whatever bomb had gone off that I'd missed. There were earlier messages, subtle ones. Emily canceling a planned Sunday dinner at my place in October. Work emergency, she'd said. Then a vague feeling under the weather for Thanksgiving prep. I'd offered to bring soup. She'd said no thanks. But nothing explained healing. Nothing explained why my own daughter had declared me persona non grata in a group chat full of people who used to call me for recipes and childcare advice. I kept reading, numb now, like I was watching someone else's life unravel. December 5th. Kyle. Your dad asked if he should talk to your mom. He feels bad. No. Let him enjoy his new family. Mom needs to learn she can't control the narrative anymore. Control the narrative? I hadn't controlled anything since the day Richard walked out with his golf clubs and half the savings. I had controlled the mortgage payments, the orthodontics bills, the late-night drives when Emily had panic attacks in college. I had controlled my tongue when she married Kyle 6 months after meeting him because she was happy and that was all that mattered. But apparently, in her version, I was the villain. I dropped the phone on the comforter like it burned me. My reflection stared back from the dark window. Pale, eyes wide, hair a mess. I looked older than I felt. Or maybe exactly as old as the betrayal made me feel. I thought about calling Karen. She'd always been the peacemaker, the one who smoothed things over. But she'd replied with hearts. She'd agreed to the silence. I thought about texting Emily directly. Saw the chat. What did I do? But pride or fear stopped me. If she wanted space, pushing would only prove her point. Instead, I did the only thing left. I screenshotted the thread. Every damning message. Saved them to a hidden folder labeled Taxes 2023 because no one ever looks there. Evidence. Proof that this wasn't in my head. Then I turned off my phone. Completely. Power button held until the screen went black. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of the cheap Merlot I kept for bad days. Drank half of it standing at the sink, staring at the empty dish rack.
The wine tasted like vinegar. Back in the bedroom, I crawled under the covers without changing. The fleece blanket still smelled faintly of Emily's old vanilla shampoo. I pulled it to my face and finally let the tears come. Not loud sobs, just silent, hot tracks down my cheeks. She'd said I was always fine. She was wrong. I wasn't fine. I was shattered. And the worst part, the person who broke me was the one I'd spent my entire adult life trying to keep whole. Outside, snow started falling, soft, silent flakes that would cover everything by morning. I watched them through the blinds, wondering how long it would take for the cold to settle in my bones the way her words already had. Christmas was coming, and for the first time in her life, I wasn't part of it.
Sleep refused to come that night after the chat leak. I lay in the dark for hours, replaying every word Emily had typed, every heart emoji from the people who'd once called me family. By 3 a.m., my mind was a carousel of guilt and confusion, spinning too fast to stop. I needed something solid, something from before the silence, to remind myself who we used to be. So I climbed the narrow pull-down stairs to the attic. The air up there was thick with dust and the faint smell of old cedar from the Christmas boxes stacked against the far wall. I flicked on the single bare bulb. It swung gently, throwing long shadows across the plywood floor. I hadn't been up here in years, not since Emily helped me pack away the last of the holiday decorations after Mason's first Christmas. She'd laughed when I tried to carry a box too heavy, taken it from me with that easy strength she'd inherited from her father, and said, "Mom, you don't have to do everything yourself anymore." I'd smiled then. Now the memory felt like a splinter under my skin. I dragged the big plastic bin labeled Emily Childhood into the center of the floor and knelt beside it. The lid popped open with a soft whoosh of trapped air. On top was the photo album I'd made for her high school graduation. Thick black pages, corners curling, every snapshot protected under plastic sheets. I lifted it out carefully, as if it might crumble. The first page hit me like a wave. Emily at 3, Christmas morning 1998, sitting in a pile of wrapping paper, wearing nothing but a red velvet dress and a crooked tiara. I was behind her in the photo, kneeling, arms around her waist, chin on her shoulder, both of us laughing so hard our eyes were squeezed shut. My hair was still mostly brown then, no silver threads yet. I looked young, happy, whole. I turned pages slowly. There we were at the tree farm every December, me in my wool coat and scarf, Emily bundled in a puffy snowsuit, pointing at the perfect Douglas fir. Another year, baking sugar cookies until the kitchen looked like a snowstorm at hidden doors. Flour on our noses, her tiny handprints pressed into the dough. I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. frosting them while she slept, so Santa would have something special. Further in, the year Richard left. Emily was 12. The photos thinned out after that. No more matching mother-daughter outfits. Just me and her at the mall holiday photos with Santa, her smile smaller, eyes wary. One picture showed us on the couch Christmas Eve, her head on my lap, me reading The Night Before Christmas for the 100th time. My face looked tired, but determined. I remembered thinking, we'll be okay, just the two of us. We'll make new traditions. We did, for a while. Drive-in movies with hot chocolate and thermoses, midnight mass at St. Raphael's even though neither of us was particularly religious anymore, just for the candles and the choir. I worked double shifts at the library so she could have the same kind of Christmases her friends had. New bikes, American Girl dolls, the latest video games. I never told her how close we came to losing the house some years. I never wanted her to carry that weight. But there were other boxes too. I pulled out the smaller one tucked behind the big bin, unlabeled, just dusty cardboard. Inside were loose photos, report cards, birthday cards she'd made me with crayon hearts. And at the bottom, a thin spiral notebook, the kind with the marble cover. Emily's teenage handwriting on the front. Private, do not read, with 3 angry underlines and a skull doodle. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew that even as my fingers lifted the cover. The first entry was dated June 2009. She was 18, just graduated, about to start community college before transferring to UIUC. Mom thinks she knows everything about my life. She doesn't know half. She keeps asking why I don't want to come home every weekend, because I can finally breathe here. No one's asking me if I ate, if I'm warm, if I'm happy. No one's looking at me like I'm the only reason they get out of bed. It's exhausting. My stomach dropped. Another entry a few months later. She cried when I said I might stay in the dorms for Thanksgiving. Said, but it's our tradition. Our tradition. Like I don't get a say. Like everything I do is a referendum on how much she sacrificed. I love her. I do. But sometimes I wish she'd let me love her back without it feeling like a debt. Debt.
The word echoed in the attic like a slammed door. I'd never said it out loud, not once, but apparently she'd heard it anyway. Every time I paid her phone bill, every time I drove 4 hours to bring her laundry home, every time I said, family comes first, she'd heard obligation. Guilt. Strings. I flipped forward. The entries got shorter, sharper. Mom asked again about Christmas. I said I might go skiing with friends. She went quiet, then said, okay, if that's what you want. But her voice cracked. I hate that sound. I hate that I cause it. Then a gap, pages blank for almost a year. The next entry was after college graduation. I got the job in Chicago, told Mom. She cried happy tears, hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe, said, I'm so proud of you, baby girl. I wanted to believe it wasn't laced with, but I'll miss you. It always is. The last page was dated 5 years ago, right after Leela was born. Mom's here every weekend, helps with the baby, cooks, cleans. I'm grateful. I am. But Kyle says it feels like she's trying to prove she's still needed. Like if she stops, we'll forget her. I don't know how to tell her I love her without it turning into a performance. Therapy tomorrow. Maybe she'll help me figure it out. I closed the notebook. My hands were trembling so badly the pages rustled. Dust motes floated in the bulb's light like tiny ghosts. I sat there on the cold floor for a long time, surrounded by the wreckage of our history. The albums, the cards, the costumes, the cookies we baked together. All of it proved that I loved her fiercely, but also proved maybe that I'd loved her too fiercely, that I'd held on so tight I'd left marks she couldn't explain. I thought about the group chat again. Healing, boundaries. She'll be fine. I wasn't fine, but maybe she hadn't been either. Not for a long time. I carried the notebook downstairs with me, tucked it into my nightstand drawer next to the screenshotted chat messages. Evidence, still. But now it was evidence against myself too. Outside, the snow had stopped. The streetlights glowed on fresh powder. Somewhere in Hinsdale, Emily was probably asleep, her children dreaming of Santa, her husband's arm around her. I turned off the attic light and pulled the stairs up behind me. The house settled into quiet again. But the questions wouldn't settle. What else had I missed? What other entries had she never written down? And how deep did the hurt go? Deep enough to erase me from Christmas forever? I didn't know yet. But the attic had given me the first real crack in the story I told myself for 34 years. That I'd been the perfect mother. That my sacrifices had been invisible gifts. They weren't invisible. They were heavy, and she'd been carrying them longer than I'd ever realized.
December 20th arrived colder than I expected. The kind of cold that seeps through the cracks around the windows and makes the floorboards creak underfoot. I'd spent the morning trying to distract myself, baking gingerbread men I had no intention of eating, stringing lights on the small artificial tree in the living room corner, anything to keep my hands busy and my mind off the calendar. 5 days until Christmas Eve. 5 days until whatever small family gathering Emily was hosting without me. I was wiping flour off the counter when the doorbell rang. I froze. No one came to my door unannounced anymore. Karen always texted first. The mail carrier just left packages on the porch. For a split second, I let myself hope. Maybe it was Emily. Maybe she changed her mind. Maybe she was standing there with the kids, arms full of apologies and wrapped gifts. I smoothed my hair, wiped my hands on a dish towel, and opened the door. It wasn't Emily. It was Richard. My ex-husband stood on the welcome mat looking almost exactly like the man who'd walked out 14 years earlier, except now his hair was mostly silver and the lines around his eyes were deeper. He wore a navy peacoat I didn't recognize and held a small red gift bag in his gloved hand. The wind tugged at the tissue paper poking out the top. "Hi, Laura," he said. His voice was careful, the way it got when he knew he was delivering bad news. "Richard." I didn't move aside to let him in, not yet. "What are you doing here?" He shifted his weight. "Emily asked me to drop this off, said she didn't want to mail it, thought it might get lost." I stared at the bag like it might bite me. She couldn't bring it herself? "She's busy with the kids, preparations." He shrugged, the universal male gesture for "I don't want to get involved." I finally stepped back. "Come in, it's freezing." He hesitated, then crossed the threshold, bringing the smell of cold air and expensive aftershave with him. I closed the door and took the bag without looking inside. We stood awkwardly in the foyer, the grandfather clock in the hall ticking too loudly. "You want coffee?" I asked, because that's what you offer when your ex shows up uninvited. "No thanks, I can't stay long. Vanessa's waiting in the car." Of course she was. I pictured her in the passenger seat of his black SUV, scrolling Instagram, pretending this wasn't awkward. I set the bag on the entry table. "So, what is it?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Open it. She wanted you to have it before Christmas." I untied the ribbon, pulled out the tissue.
Inside was a simple silver picture frame, 5x7. The photo showed Lila and Mason sitting on the front steps of Emily's house, bundled in winter coats, cheeks pink from the cold. Lila was holding a snowball, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. Mason looked up at the camera with wide, serious eyes. No adults in the frame, no Emily, no message written on the back. Just the photo, professionally printed, matted perfectly. I swallowed hard. It's beautiful. The kids look happy. They are, Richard said quietly. I looked up at him. Why didn't she send this herself, or text me, or anything? He exhaled through his nose, the sound of a man who'd rather be anywhere else. She's trying to set boundaries, Laura. She told me she needs space. Space from me. It wasn't a question. He nodded once. Yeah. I set the frame down carefully, like it was made of glass that might shatter if I gripped it too hard. Richard, what did she tell you? Exactly. Because I've been racking my brain for weeks and I can't figure out what I did that was so unforgivable she'd erase me from Christmas. He looked away, toward the living room, where the tree lights blinked silently. She said, you never let her forget how much he sacrificed. That every time she tried to make a choice that didn't include you, it came with guilt. Like she owed you her whole life because you raised her alone. The words landed like punches I'd seen coming but still couldn't block. I never said that. You didn't have to say it outright. She felt it. Every holiday when you'd say, I did all this for you, or I gave up so much so you could have this. She heard obligation, not love. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. I was proud of what I did for her. I was trying to show her she was worth it. I know, he said softer now. But to her it felt like a ledger, and she's tired of being in debt. I crossed my arms, hugging myself. So she tells you all this, her father who left when she was 12, but she won't tell me. She talks to me because I'm not the one who carried the weight. I'm the one who got to walk away. She doesn't feel like she owes me anything. He paused. Vanessa's been in therapy with her. They're close. Emily says talking to her feels neutral. Neutral. The words stung worse than anything else he'd said. I looked at the frame again. The kids' faces blurred through sudden tears. She invited you, Vanessa too, Karen, the neighbors, everyone but me. Richard didn't deny it. She's protecting her peace. That's what she calls it. Her peace doesn't include her mother. Not right now. He reached out, almost touched my arm, then thought better of it, and let his hand drop. She loves you, Laura. She's just angry, hurt, confused. Therapy's helping her unpack it. Therapy, I laughed bitterly. She's in therapy because of me. Because of a lot of things. The divorce. Growing up feeling responsible for your happiness. The way you two are so intertwined after I left. She felt like she couldn't leave without breaking you. I stared at him. I never asked her to stay for me. You didn't have to ask. The silence stretched between us, heavy as the snow piling up outside. I could see his breath fogging in the cold foyer air. I should go, he said finally. Vanessa's probably wondering. I nodded, numb. Tell Emily, tell her thank you for the photo. Tell her I miss her, the kids too. I will. He opened the door, paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry, for all of it. I know I left you holding everything. Maybe if I'd stayed. Don't, I cut him off. We're past that. He gave a small, sad nod and stepped out into the snow. I closed the door behind him and leaned against it, sliding down until I sat on the floor. The gift bag sat on the table above me like an accusation. I pulled the frame out again, traced Lila's smile with my fingertip. They looked so happy, so complete. Without me. I stayed there until my legs went numb, until the tree lights reflected in the glass of the frame like tiny stars. Outside, Richard's car started, tires crunching over fresh snow as he drove away. I didn't cry then, not yet. But the tears were coming. I could feel them gathering, patient, waiting for the moment I let the truth settle in. My daughter hadn't just forgotten to invite me. She'd chosen not to. And she'd sent her father, my ex, the man who'd walked away, to deliver the message. That hurt worse than silence ever could.
Christmas Eve morning dawned gray and heavy, the kind of Midwest winter day where the sky looks like wet concrete and the air hurts your lungs when you breathe it. I woke up at 5:47 a.m., same time the alarm used to go off when Emily was little and we'd make cinnamon rolls before the kids woke up. Habit, I guess. Or maybe just the ghost of traditions refusing to die quietly. I made coffee in the dark kitchen, the drip machine gurgling like an old friend who doesn't know what to say anymore. The house smelled faintly of pine, from the little tree I'd finally decorated the night before, mostly with the ornaments Emily had made in elementary school: popsicle stick stars, salt dough handprints, a lopsided angel with glitter that still shed every time I touched it. I'd hung them anyway, some small act of defiance against the emptiness. By 7, I was on the couch, phone in hand, robe pulled tight around me. I told myself I wouldn't look. I'd promised myself last night, no more scrolling, no more hoping for a last-minute text. But promises to yourself are fragile things when your heart's involved. I opened Instagram first. Emily's account was still public. She'd never bothered to lock it down. Her profile picture was the same one from last summer, her and the kids on the beach in Michigan, wind in their hair, all three of them laughing like the world was perfect. I tapped her stories. The first one loaded, a boomerang of twinkling white lights draped over the mantel. Caption: Christmas magic starting early. Music playing, some soft acoustic version of Silent Night. Next, a close-up of a charcuterie board, cheeses arranged in a wreath shape, cranberries scattered like rubies. Appetizers ready, let the feasting begin. Then a video. Emily's living room in full holiday glory, garland on every surface, a massive Fraser fir in the corner dripping with ornaments and ribbon. The camera panned slowly, Kyle in a ridiculous Santa hat pouring eggnog, Lila twirling in a sparkly dress, Mason chasing the dog with a candy cane. Laughter bubbled under the music. In the background, I caught a glimpse of my sister Karen walking in with a casserole dish, cheeks flushed from the cold, kissing Emily on the cheek like it was the most natural thing in the world. My thumb hovered. I swiped to the next story before I could stop myself. A photo. Emily hugging Richard tightly, her face buried in his shoulder, his arms wrapped around her like she was still that 12-year-old girl he used to carry on his shoulders. Vanessa stood nearby, smiling softly, holding 2 mugs of something steaming. Caption: Finally feeling whole again. Heart. Grateful for second chances and family that shows up. Whole again? The words punched the air out of me. Whole without me. I dropped the phone onto the cushion like it had burned my skin. My chest rose and fell too fast. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, loud, erratic, wrong. I picked it up again, went to her feed, scrolled back through the last few days. December 22nd, a carousel of gift wrapping. One photo showed the dining table covered in rolls of paper, ribbons, tags. In the corner of one shot, my old college roommate, Jen, laughing as she tied a bow. Jen, who'd been at every major holiday since Emily's birth. Jen, who'd driven me to the hospital when Emily was born when Richard was out of town. Jen was there. I wasn't. December 23rd, a reel of the kids decorating cookies. Flour everywhere. Emily's voice in the background. Careful, Mason, that's Grandma Karen's special icing. Grandma Karen, not Grandma Laura. I kept scrolling, farther back, looking for the moment the shift happened, looking for proof I wasn't imagining it. There I was in early December, a Throwback Thursday photo she'd posted of us at the pumpkin patch when she was 5. Caption: Throwing it back to simpler times. Miss these days. She'd tagged me. I'd commented, my favorite pumpkin picker. Love you always. She'd hearted it. Then, nothing. No more tags, no more mentions, just a slow fade out. I switched to Facebook. Same story. Her event for Christmas at home was listed as private. I wasn't invited, of course, but I could see the guest list because Karen, bless her oblivious heart, had RSVP'd yes, and the notification popped up in my feed. Karen is going to Emily's Christmas gathering. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Something snapped. I grabbed my keys, my coat, my boots. Didn't think, just moved. The drive to Hinsdale took 45 minutes in holiday traffic, long enough for doubt to creep in, but not long enough to talk myself out of it. I told myself I wouldn't knock. I just needed to see, needed to know it was real. I parked 3 houses down on their quiet cul-de-sac, far enough that the streetlights didn't catch my license plate clearly. Their house glowed like a magazine spread, every window lit warm gold, wreaths on the doors, luminaries lining the walkway. Cars lined the driveway, Richard's SUV, Karen's minivan, even the Miller's old Buick. Music drifted faintly through the closed windows, something upbeat, laughter underneath. In the background, I caught a glimpse of my sister Karen walking in with a casserole dish, cheeks flushed from the cold, kissing Emily on the cheek like it was the most natural thing in the world. I sat there with the engine off, heat fading fast, breath fogging the windshield. I watched shadows move behind the curtains, a silhouette that looked like Emily carrying a tray, another, Kyle maybe, lifting a child onto his shoulders. Normal, happy, complete. My phone buzzed once, a text from Karen. Hope you're having a peaceful Christmas Eve, sis. Love you. I didn't reply. Tears came then, hot, angry, silent. I didn't wipe them away. I let them fall. I stayed until almost 10, until the lights in the front rooms dimmed a little, until the party shifted to the family room in the back, until I couldn't pretend anymore that I belonged in that glow. I started the car. The heater blasted cold air at first, then warm. I drove slowly home, radio off, the only sound the crunch of tires on salt-strewn roads and my own ragged breathing. When I got inside, the little tree looked pathetic, too small, too lonely. I unplugged it. The room went dark, except for the streetlight filtering through the blinds. I sat on the couch in my coat, boots still on, staring at nothing. She'd invited everyone who'd ever mattered to her, everyone except the woman who carried her, raised her, stayed when others left. And the worst part, from the outside looking in, her Christmas looked perfect, whole, without me. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the dark, replaying every story, every caption, every laugh I wasn't part of. Christmas Eve passed without me, and for the first time, I understood that maybe it always would.
Christmas morning broke quiet and merciless. No excited footsteps thundering down the hall. No squeals over stockings. No smell of coffee brewing while little voices whispered about Santa. Just me, alone in the condo, wrapped in the same fleece blanket that still carried the faint ghost of Emily's teenage vanilla shampoo. The tree lights were off. I hadn't bothered turning them back on after last night's vigil outside her house. The room felt smaller, colder, like the walls had crept in while I slept. I made myself get up at 8. Habit, routine, pretend normalcy. I showered, dressed in the soft gray sweater Emily once said made me look cozy and cool, and brewed a pot of coffee I didn't really want. The mug warmed my hands, but nothing else. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the framed photo Richard had delivered, the one of Leela and Mason on the steps. Their smiles mocked me gently. I traced Mason's chubby cheek with my thumb. How long had it been since I'd held him? Since he'd called me Gamma and reached for me with both arms. My phone sat face down beside the mug like a sleeping snake. I hadn't looked at it since I got home last night. I turned off notifications, silenced the ringer, but the pull was magnetic. I flipped it over. The screen lit up with a single new text. Unknown number. Sent at 7:12 a.m. She's protecting her peace. You should do the same. Stop digging. No emoji, no signature. Just those 12 words, cold and precise. My pulse jumped into my throat. I stared at the message until the screen timed out and went dark again. Then I tapped it open, read it twice more. The number had a 312 area code, Chicago, local, someone close. I typed back before I could think better of it. Who is this? Sent. Delivered. No dots. No reply. I set the phone down hard enough that the mug rattled. My hands shook. Who knew I'd been digging? I hadn't told anyone about the group chat screenshots, the attic journal, the drive-by on Christmas Eve. Not Karen, not Richard, no one. But someone knew. I paced the kitchen, bare feet cold on the tile. Possibilities spun like snowflakes. Kyle. He'd seemed reluctant in the chat messages. Maybe he felt guilty, wanted to warn me off with Emily knowing.
Jen, my old roommate, she'd been at the house last night. Maybe she'd seen me parked down the street, recognized my car. Karen. God, please not Karen. But she'd been so careful on the phone, so quick to change the subject. Or Emily herself. The thought made my stomach lurch. Had she been watching me watch her? I opened messages again, scrolled to our thread. Still nothing from her since Thanksgiving. I almost typed something, anything, but deleted it. The anonymous text felt like a wall between us now, a warning shot. I poured more coffee I wouldn't drink and carried it to the living room, sat on the couch, stared at the black TV screen. My reflection looked hollow-eyed, older than yesterday. The phone buzzed again. I snatched it up. Same unknown number. Don't call her today. Let her have the day. My breath caught. They knew I'd been thinking about calling, or maybe it was just a good guess. Either way, it felt invasive, personal. I replied, "If this is you, Emily, just tell me why I did, please." Send. Nothing. I waited 10 minutes, 20. The house was so silent I could hear the neighbor's dog 2 doors down. Then another buzz, not a text this time, a notification from Facebook. Emily had posted a new photo to her story. I opened it with trembling fingers. A selfie. Emily in the kitchen, hair in a messy bun, wearing an apron dusted with flour. She was smiling, genuine, soft, the kind of smile she used to give me when I'd surprise her with breakfast in bed on her birthday. Behind her, the kids were at the table eating pancakes shaped like snowmen. Richard sat at the head, laughing at something off camera. Vanessa beside him, pouring syrup. Karen snapping the photo, probably. The caption, "Merry Christmas from our little corner of the world. Feeling so much love today. Grateful beyond words. 12 likes, 3 note comments." No tag for me, no subtle inclusion, just them. I watched the story loop twice before it disappeared. Then I set the phone down and pressed my palms to my eyes until I saw stars. The anonymous text kept coming, spaced out like halcyonated strikes. 10:03 a.m. She's happy right now. Don't ruin it. 10:47 a.m. You taught her how to be strong. Let her use it. 11:22 a.m. This isn't about punishing you. It's about healing her. Each one landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading through my chest. I didn't reply again. I just read them, over and over, trying to match the tone to a voice I knew. By noon I was curled on the couch, knees to my chest, blanket pulled over my head like a child hiding from a storm. The text stopped after that last one. Silence returned, heavier than before. I thought about calling the number, but what would I say? "Who are you?" I'd already asked. "Stop texting me." That felt weak. "Tell her I love her." That felt desperate. Instead, I opened the hidden folder on my phone, the one labeled Taxes 2023. I pulled up the screenshots of the family chat, read Emily's words again. "She'll be fine. She's always fine." Then the journal entry from the attic. "Sometimes I wish she'd let me love her back without it feeling like a debt." Then Richard's visit. "She felt like she couldn't leave without breaking you." Piece by piece, the picture sharpened. This wasn't random cruelty. It was deliberate distance, protection, for her. And the anonymous messenger, whether Kyle, Jen, Karen, or even Emily herself, was the gatekeeper making sure I didn't breach the wall. I stayed under the blanket until the afternoon lights landed low through the blinds. The coffee was cold. My eyes burned from unshed tears. Around 4, another bus. I almost didn't look. But I did. Unknown number. "Merry Christmas, Laura. She misses you more than she'll admit. Give her time." No more have of that. I stared at those last words until they blurred. Misses me, more than she'll admit. It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't an invitation. But it was the first crack of light in weeks of darkness. I didn't know who sent it. I still don't. But that one sentence kept me from driving back to Hinsdale that night. Kept me from pounding on her door, demanding answers, making everything worse. Instead, I let the tree lights for the first time since last night, watched them blink softly against the darkening windows. I didn't feel whole. I didn't feel okay. But for the first time since Thanksgiving, I didn't feel completely erased. Someone who cared enough to warn me, thought there might still be a way back. Maybe, someday. I pulled the blanket tighter and let the tears come then, quiet, slow. The kind that wash away a little of the hurt without drowning you. Christmas Day ended the way it began, alone. But with one small fragile thread of hope woven through the silence. And that unknown message still sitting on my phone like a secret I wasn't supposed to have.
The anonymous text stopped after Christmas Day, like whoever sent them had delivered their message and vanished back into the ether. The silence that followed felt different, less like a punishment, more like a held breath. I didn't text Emily, I didn't call, I didn't drive past her house again. Instead, I turned inward, toward the one place I still had control, the past I could actually touch. I started with the emails. My inbox was a graveyard of years, Thousands of messages, most unread since I'd switched to the new phone and never bothered migrating everything properly. I sat at the kitchen table on December 28th, laptop open, coffee gone cold beside me, and typed her name into the search bar. Emily's address popped up first, hundreds of threats. I scrolled back, year by year, looking for the moments I might have missed. The first one that stopped me cold was from 3 years ago, October 15th, 2022. Subject line, "Can we talk? Important." Her message was short. "Mom, I need to tell you something important. Can we talk? Like, really talk. Not over text. I'm free this weekend if you are." My reply, sent 2 days later. "Sure, honey, after the holidays. Work's been crazy and I'm prepping for the library fundraiser. Let's plan for after New Year's. Love you." She never followed up. No reminder, no second email. Just nothing. I stared at my own words until they blurred. I'd been so busy protecting my routine, my safe, predictable life, that I'd pushed away the one person who mattered most. Had that been the beginning of the end, or just another brick in the wall she was already building? I kept digging, further back. An email chain from 2019, right after Leela was born. Emily had sent photos from the hospital, tiny pink bundle, her exhausted but glowing face. My reply was pages long, advice on swaddling, breastfeeding tips, offers to come stay for a week. She'd written back once, "Thanks, Mom, we're good for now. Kyle's mom is here helping." I'd felt a pang then, but brushed it off. Now it read like rejection, like I'd been volunteering for a job she didn't want me to have. Then, buried deeper, an email she'd accidentally CC'd me on in 2021. It was from her therapist, Dr. Elena Ramirez, LPC. The subject, follow-up session notes, Emily Carter. I shouldn't have opened it, but my finger clicked before my conscience could catch up. The body was clinical, detached. Client reports ongoing feelings of emotional enmeshment with mother, describes mother as the center of gravity in her early life. Everything revolved around keeping mom happy after divorce. Client feels guilt when asserting independence, perceives mother's love as conditional on proximity and involvement. Recent examples, mother's frequent unannounced visits, insistence on holiday traditions that client finds overwhelming, client exploring boundaries in session. Goal, differentiate self from maternal expectations without guilt. Enmeshment. The word landed like ice water down my spine. I thought I was being supportive, present, reliable, the parent who showed up, but to Emily it had felt like suffocation, like I'd never let her fully become her own person. I closed the laptop, stood up, paced to the window. Snow had melted into gray slush on the street. A neighbor walked by with a dog, waving casually. I waved back on autopilot, but my mind was miles away in Hinsdale, replaying every visit, every phone call, every "I just wanted to help." I went back to the emails, found another thread from last year, February 2025. Emily had written, "Mom, therapy is really helping me see things differently. I'm working on some stuff from when I was a kid. Can we talk about Dad leaving? I have questions." My reply, "Of course, sweetie, whenever you're ready. You know I'm here." She never brought it up again. I never pushed. I told myself she'd come to me when she was ready, but maybe she'd been waiting for me to open the door wider. Maybe she needed me to say, "I messed up too. Let's talk about my mistakes." I hadn't. I minimized the email window and opened my photo folder instead. Scrolled through years of Christmases. There I was in every one, smiling too wide, holding too many gifts, insisting on the same traditions year after year. Emily in the background, smile handing a little more each time. In the 2023 photos, she looked tired. In 2024, distant. This year, she wasn't there at all. I slammed the laptop shut. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up at 2 a.m., pulled on sweatpants and a hoodie, and sat on the floor of my bedroom with a shoebox I'd kept under the bed for years. Old cards, letters, little mementos Emily had given me. I found one from her sophomore year of college, a Mother's Day card with her careful handwriting inside. "Dear Mom, thanks for always being there. Sometimes I feel like I don't say it enough, but I love you more than anything. You're my hero. .M." Underneath, in smaller print, she'd added, "Even when I'm mad at you for worrying too much." I traced the words with my finger. She'd been telling me then. I just hadn't listened. The next morning, December 29th, I did something reckless. I logged into my old iCloud account, the one we shared when she was in high school, so I could track her location, just in case. I hadn't used it in years. She probably thought I deleted it, but Find My still showed her phone. It was at home, in Hinsdale. No movement. I stared at the little green dot for 10 minutes, hating myself for looking, but unable to stop. Then I closed the app, deleted the bookmark, promised myself I wouldn't look again. But the digging had cracked something open inside me. Not just guilt, understanding. I'd spent decades being the strong one, the one who held everything together after Richard left. I'd made Emily my purpose, my identity. Without her needing me, who was I? I went to the kitchen, brewed fresh coffee, and sat down with a blank notebook. For the first time, I started writing, not to her, but to myself. What did I do wrong?
Where did love turn into pressure? When did "I'm here for you" become "you owe me your happiness"? The pages filled slowly. Sentences turned into paragraphs. Tears smudged the ink in places. By noon, I had 6 pages of raw, ugly truth. I didn't mail it, didn't text it. I just folded the notebook shut and slid it into the same drawer as the screenshots and the journal. The digging wasn't over. But for the first time, I wasn't looking only for what she'd done to me. I was looking for what I'd done to her, and the mirror it held up was brutal.
December 26th felt like the day after a funeral. No fanfare, just the dull ache of everything that had been lost. The holiday lights on the neighbors' houses still blinked cheerfully, mocking the gray sky and the slushy streets. I'd spent Boxing Day morning staring at the ceiling, replaying the anonymous texts, the emails, the journal entries. The pieces were starting to fit, but the picture they formed hurt more than the blank space ever had. By noon, the hurt had curdled into something sharper, resolve. I couldn't wait for her to come to me. I couldn't sit in this condo another day pretending the silence was temporary. I needed to hear it from her mouth. Why, how long, what I'd done that was so unforgivable she chose an exile over explanation. I dressed in the same green cardigan she'd complimented last Christmas. "You look like a forest elf, Mom." Pulled on boots, grabbed my keys, and drove. The whole way to Hinsdale, my hands gripped the wheels so tight my knuckles turned white. Traffic was light. Everyone was still recovering from turkey and too much wine. I rehearsed what I'd say 100 times. Calm, reasonable, no tears, no accusations, just questions. I pulled into her cul-de-sac at 2:17 p.m. Her house looked the same as it had on Christmas Eve. Lights still up, wreath on the door, a few leftover gift bags visible through the front window. Richard's SUV was gone, Karen's minivan too. Maybe they'd all left already. Maybe she was alone. I parked in the driveway this time. No hiding down the street like some pathetic stalker. I walked up the salted path, heart hammering loud enough I was sure the neighbors could hear it. I rang the bell. Footsteps. The door opened. Emily stood there in yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, hair in a messy ponytail, no makeup. She looked smaller than I remembered. Thinner, maybe, or just tired. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Mom?" Her voice cracked on the word. Surprise. Not anger. Not yet. "Hi, sweetheart." I tried to smile. It felt like cracking ice. "Can we talk?" She glanced over her shoulder into the house. I heard the faint sound of cartoons from the living room. The kids were watching something. Kyle's voice drifted in, low, asking who it was. Emily stepped outside and pulled the door almost closed behind her, leaving it cracked enough to hear if the kids needed her. The cold air rushed between us. "This isn't a good time," she said quietly. "Then when? You invited everyone but me. Your father, my sister, even Jen. You sent Dad with a photo like some delivery service. I've been waiting for you to explain. I'm done waiting." She crossed her arms, hugging herself against the wind or maybe against me. "I told you in the group chat, I need space. I saw the chat. I saw everything. She'll be fine, healing, boundaries. But you never told me what I did. You just erased me." Her jaw tightened. "You showed up here, unannounced, on the day after Christmas. That's exactly what I mean. You don't listen. You decide what's best and you do it. I drove 2 hours because my daughter shut me out without a word. I deserve to know why." She looked away, toward the snow-dusted lawn. "You hurt me, Mom, for years. You made me feel like I owed you my entire life because you stayed after Dad left. Every time I wanted to do something, go to a different college, travel with friends, spend a holiday with Kyle's family, you'd get that look, the quiet one, the one that said I was breaking your heart. And then you'd say it, after everything I've done. I heard it even when you didn't say it out loud. I felt the ground tilt. I never meant. You did. Maybe not on purpose, but you did. Therapy helped me see it. I was your emotional support animal after the divorce. I couldn't leave the nest without feeling like I was abandoning you. I love you, I do, but I couldn't breathe. The words landed like stones in my chest. I opened my mouth to argue, to explain that I'd only wanted to protect her, to keep us close because the world had already taken so much. But the look on her face stopped me. She wasn't angry. She was exhausted. "So you shut me out," I whispered. "Forever?" "Not forever." Her voice softened, just a fraction. "Just until I can trust that you'll let me have my own life without making it about your pain. Until I can invite you without feeling like I'm performing gratitude." I swallowed hard. "And the kids? Lila and Mason, they don't even know I wasn't here? They asked about you." I told them Grandma had to work. They were sad, but they're kids. They bounce back. She paused. I didn't want them to see me cry if things got tense. I didn't want another holiday where everyone walks on eggshells because Mom's feelings are hurt. The truth of it stung worse than any lie could have. I looked at the front door, cracked open just enough to show the warm glow inside. I could hear Mason giggling at the TV. Life going on without me. "One more thing," I said, voice barely above a whisper.
Who texted me on Christmas? The anonymous number. She's protecting her peace. Give her time. Was that you? Emily's eyes flicked to mine, then away. She hesitated so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Finally, she nodded once. Yeah, it was me. I bought a cheap burner phone at Target the week before. I didn't want you to think I didn't care at all, but I also didn't want you calling or showing up and making it harder. I felt something inside me crack open, relief and pain at once. She'd cared enough to reach out, even if it was through shadows. Why not just tell me? I asked. Because you would have cried. You would have promised to change. You would have asked to come over anyway, and I wasn't strong enough to say no yet. The wind picked up, whipping snow flurries around us. I shivered, but not from the cold. I'm sorry, I said. The words felt small, inadequate. I know you're sorry. I believe you. But sorry doesn't fix 30 years of patterns overnight. I nodded. I get that. We stood there in the cold for another long minute. Neither of us moved to hug. Neither of us said goodbye. Finally, she spoke. I need more time, Mom. Please don't come back unannounced. Don't text 100 times. Just wait. When I'm ready, I'll reach out. Okay, I said. My voice broke on the word. She gave a small, sad nod, then turned and slipped back inside. The door clicked shut softly. The lock didn't turn. She didn't need to lock me out anymore. I'd already felt the bolt slide home in my chest. I walked back to my car on legs that didn't quite feel like mine. I sat behind the wheel for a long time before starting the engine. Snowflakes melted on the windshield, blurring the house lights into soft halos. I drove home in silence. No radio, no tears this time. Just a quiet, aching clarity. She hadn't slammed the door forever. She'd asked for space. And for the first time, I understood that giving it might be the only way to ever get invited back inside.
The drive home from Emily's house on December 26th felt longer than the 2 hours it actually took. Snow flurries swirled in the headlights like static on an old TV screen, and every mile marker blurred past without registering. I kept the radio off. The only sound was the heater fan and the soft thump of my own heartbeat slowing from the adrenaline of the confrontation. Her words echoed in the quiet. You made me feel like I owed you my entire life. I couldn't breathe. Therapy helped me see it. I didn't cry the whole way. I was too numb for that. But by the time I pulled into my driveway in Naperville, the numbness had cracked open into something raw and restless. I couldn't go inside and sit with it. Not yet. I needed distraction, proof, anything to make sense of the space she'd carved between us. So I went straight to the spare bedroom closet, the one I called the memory vault. It was stuffed with boxes I hadn't touched in years, tax returns from the 2000s, old report cards, the wedding album from Richard and me that I'd never thrown away. At the very bottom, behind a stack of photo albums, was the plain brown shoebox labeled in my handwriting, "Important papers, do not toss." I carried it to the living room, set it on the coffee table, and knelt on the rug like I was about to pray. The lid came off with a faint puff of dust. On top, birth certificates, Emily's Social Security card copy, the divorce decree from 2008. Underneath those, a smaller stack of envelopes and loose sheets, things I'd shoved in there during the messy years after Richard left, when I was too exhausted to file properly. I started pulling them out one by one. A card from Emily's 8th grade graduation, a hospital bill from when she had her tonsils out at 10, then, near the bottom, an envelope I didn't recognize at first. No stamp, no address, just my name in Emily's teenage handwriting, careful, looping letters she'd used before she switched to the quicker cursive she has now. The envelope wasn't sealed. Inside was a single folded sheet of notebook paper, edges frayed from being handled too many times. Dated March 12, 2020, 5 years ago, right in the middle of the pandemic lockdown when everything felt suspended. I unfolded it slowly, heart already sinking. Mom, I've been trying to write this for months. I don't know if I'll ever give it to you, but I need to get it out. Dad told me the truth about why you two really divorced. It wasn't just growing apart, like you always said. He told me about the affair with Uncle Mike, his best friend. He said you confessed to him one night after too much wine, and he walked out the next day. He said he tried to forgive you, but he couldn't. That's why he left us. I overheard you fighting about it once when I was little. I was supposed to be asleep. You were crying, saying you made a mistake, that it was only once, that you loved him. He yelled that you'd ruined everything. I hid under the covers and pretended I didn't hear. I never told you I knew. All these years, I carried that secret. I thought if I said anything, it would break us. So I kept quiet, but it poisoned everything. Every time you said Dad left for no reason, it felt like a lie. Every time you told me family was everything, it felt like hypocrisy. I started resenting you, not for the affair, but for pretending it didn't happen, for making me the keeper of your shame. Therapy is making me face it. I'm angry at Dad for telling me and then disappearing into his new life. I'm angry at you for never being honest, but mostly I'm angry at myself for letting it fester so long. I don't know what to do with this. I love you. I hate that I feel this way. Maybe someday I'll give you this letter. Maybe I won't, but I needed to write it down so it stops living inside my head. Emily. The paper trembled in my hands. I read it again, then a third time, each pass carved deeper. The affair. Yes, it had happened. One stupid, reckless night when Richard and I were barely speaking, when the distance between us felt like a canyon, and Mike, kind, funny Mike, was there with a bottle of Cabernet and listening ears. It was brief, it was wrong. I'd confessed to Richard the next morning, sobbing, begging forgiveness. He'd stared at me like a stranger, packed a bag, and left. We tried counseling for 6 months. It didn't work. He moved out, I stayed, and raised our daughter alone. I'd never told Emily. She was 12, too young for that kind of truth, I told myself. Better she think her father left because he couldn't handle responsibility than because her mother had betrayed him. Better a clean narrative. He was the one who walked away. I was the one who stayed. But Richard had told her. Of course he had. In his version, I was the villain who destroyed the family. He got to play the wounded hero, starting over with Vanessa, while I carried the guilt alone. I sat back on my heels, the letter still clutched in my fist. Tears came then, not the quiet ones from before, but hot, choking sobs that shook my whole body. I cried for the girl who'd carried my secret for years, for the woman who'd finally set it free in therapy, for the mother who thought silence was protection and instead built a prison. I folded the letter carefully, slipped it back into the envelope, and pressed it to my chest. The house was dark, except for the streetlight filtering through the blinds. Outside, a car passed slowly, headlights sweeping the room like searchlights. Everything made sense now. The old wounds Richard had mentioned, the healing in the group chat, the way Emily had looked at me on the porch, like someone who'd spent years protecting me from the truth I'd never faced. I stood up, legs unsteady, and walked to the kitchen. I poured a glass of water, drank half, then poured the rest down the sink. My reflection in the window looked haunted. I couldn't fix this tonight. I couldn't call her and explain. She'd asked for space. I had to give it. But I could start something else. I went to the desk, pulled out fresh stationery, the cream kind I used for thank you notes, and began to write. Not a defense, not excuses, just truth. Emily, I found the letter you never sent. I'm so sorry. You're right, I had an affair. It was one night, one terrible mistake, and I've carried the shame of it every day since. I never told you because I thought I was protecting you. I was wrong. I was protecting myself. Your dad told you his version. He has every right to his pain. But I want you to hear mine too. Not to excuse what I did, but so you know the whole story. I loved your father once, deeply. When things fell apart, I panicked. I reached for comfort in the wrong place. I confessed to Richard immediately. We tried to fix it. We couldn't. He left. I stayed. And I spent the next 20 years trying to make sure you never felt the fallout. But I see now that my silence created its own fallout. You carried my secret without asking to. You felt the weight of my guilt even when I never spoke it. That's not love, that's burden. I'm in therapy now too, starting next week. I want to understand how my choices shaped yours. I want to learn how to love without strings, without debt. I won't ask you to forgive me, not yet. I'll wait, as long as it takes for you to decide if there's room for me again. No pressure, no guilt. Just this. I love you. Always have, always will. And I'm sorry for the lie, for the silence, for everything I didn't see. Mom. I folded the letter, slipped it into an envelope, addressed it to her house. No return address stamp, just my handwriting. I didn't mail it that night. I set it on the kitchen counter under the framed photo of the kids and went to bed. For the first time in weeks, sleep came, fitful but real. The betrayal wasn't just mine to Emily, it was Richard's to both of us. And the hidden truth had finally surfaced, jagged and painful, but no longer buried. Tomorrow, I'd decide whether to send the letter, but tonight, I let the truth sit beside me like an old, weary friend.
The letter sat on the kitchen counter for 3 full days after I wrote it. Every morning I'd walk past it on my way to the coffee maker, glance at the cream envelope with Emily's name in my careful handwriting, and feel the weight of it like a stone in my pocket. I'd pick it up, trace the edges, then set it down again. Mailing it felt final, like handing over the last piece of armor I had left. Not mailing it felt like cowardice. On December 31st, New Year's Eve, I made the decision. The condo was quiet, except for the distant pop of fireworks somewhere over the river. I bundled up, drove to the post office on the edge of town, the one that stayed open late for last-minute tax forms, and dropped the envelope into the blue mailbox outside. The metal flap clanged shut with a sound that echoed in my chest. No turning back. I didn't expect a reply. I didn't even hope for one right away. I just needed her to have the truth, all of it, without strings, without begging, without the old patterns of guilt and performance. The first week of January passed in a strange limbo. I started therapy. Dr. Patel, a soft-spoken woman in her 50s who met me virtually from her home office in Oak Park. Our first session, I cried the whole 50 minutes. I told her about the affair, the divorce, the way I turned Emily into my anchor after Richard left. I told her about the group chat, the attic journal, the confrontation on the porch. She listened without judgment, nodding occasionally, asking gentle questions that made me see myself more clearly than I ever had. "You stayed," she said in our second session. "You stayed when he didn't. That's heroic. But heroism can become a role you play so long that you forget how to step off stage." I nodded, wiping my eyes with a tissue. I forgot she needed a mother, not a martyr. The weeks stretched. No text from Emily, no call, no angry message saying, "How dare you bring that up now?" Just silence. But this silence felt different from the one after Thanksgiving. It wasn't cold. It was careful. Breathing room. I filled the days with small things. I joined a book club at the library where I worked, mostly retirees who argued passionately about historical fiction. I started walking every morning around the neighborhood, even when the wind cut through my coat. I took down the Christmas tree on January 6th, wrapped the ornaments carefully, and stored them in the attic without opening Emily's old boxes. Some things could wait. One evening in late January, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone, not obsessively this time, just gently. There was one from 2018, Emily pregnant with Leela, standing in my kitchen, hand on her belly, both of us laughing at something off camera. I looked at my own face in the picture, tired but lit up, and realized I hadn't seen that light in a long time. I saved the photo to a new album called Before, not to dwell, just to remember that we'd been happy once, that happiness wasn't erased, it was just buried under years of unspoken hurt. February came with more snow, then a sudden thaw that turned everything to mud. On Valentine's Day, today, I woke up to the first real sign. My phone buzzed at 8:14 a.m., a text from Emily. "Received your letter, read it twice, still processing, but thank you for being honest. I needed that." No hearts, no love you, but no anger either, just acknowledgement. I stared at the message until my vision blurred. Then I typed back, slowly, carefully. "I'm glad you got it. Take all the time you need. I'm here when you're ready. Love you always." I hit send and set the phone down.
My hand shook, but not from fear this time, from relief, from the quiet knowledge that the door wasn't locked forever, just ajar. I didn't hear from her again that day, or the next, but the silence no longer felt like rejection. It felt like space, like healing in slow motion. I lit a single white candle on the kitchen table that night, not for Christmas, those days were gone, but for us, for the life I gave her, the one she was now building on her own terms, for the grandkids I might see again someday, for the laughter that might return. I watched the flame flicker, steady against the draft from the window. Somewhere in Hinsdale, Emily was probably putting the kids to bed. Kyle might be loading the dishwasher. Richard and Vanessa might be having dinner across town. Karen might be texting her kids goodnight. Life moved on. And I was part of it still, just not in the center anymore. That realization didn't erase the ache. The hole where my daughter used to fit was still there, tender and raw. But it wasn't a gaping wound. It was a scar in progress, proof that something had been broken and was mending. I blew out the candle at 10 p.m., the smoke curling upward like a quiet prayer. I didn't make resolutions for the new year. I didn't need them. I already had one. To love without demanding return. To wait without resentment. To be the mother she needed now, not the one I'd always been. Maybe she'll invite me to Easter. Maybe to the kids' birthdays. Maybe to next Christmas. Maybe she won't. Either way, my heart still beats for her. Steady. Unconditional. No strings. That's the painful, beautiful truth I finally learned. The holiday that changed everything wasn't about lights or gifts or family dinners. It was about letting go. About realizing that love doesn't always look like closeness. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like silence. And sometimes when the time is right, it looks like a single text on a February morning that says, "I read it. Thank you." I closed my eyes that night, and for the first time in months, slept without dreams of empty invitation envelopes or locked doors. The end. Or perhaps the beginning.